I've been training for a triathlon for over 4 months now, and for the majority of those 4 months, I've been doing my bikes in an indoor trainer inside my local gym, for the reason that this is the bike that I have. In all seriousness, not a bad bike. However, it is a mountain bike. It's a little bit heavier, but the biggest thing is that the gears don't really shift. So I have to go up 2 and then down 1 to go up 1, if that makes sense. It doesn't really have modern gearing. Everything's getting a little rusty and old, and I didn't take proper care of it at the time because I grew up with this bike. I think I learned how to ride a bike on this bike, which was a while ago. Since I started training for a triathlon, I definitely want to get some experience on the actual road bike that I'm going to use for my race before I race. So I talked to my coach, and she suggested that I get a custom bike fit. So I did some research. No, not that kind of research. So I did some research and found Retool, which is allegedly really good for bike fits. So I went to the filters, and I actually found one that's like 30 minutes from me, which was really great. Clicked on it, and I just went to go book an appointment and to see what kind of options there were. And surprisingly enough, there was a lot. And to my luck, there was actually one that you could do a bike fit without a bike. And now I have an appointment booked for 10 a.m. tomorrow. That being said, I'll see you guys at 10 o'clock.
I'm going to have you step up on the table, but face outward. You're not getting on the bike yet.
Okay, face outward.
And then feet shoulder width apart. And I want you to squat down a little bit. Right there. That's good. So I'm going to mark the shoes where the bones are in your foot, because I want to know where basically where your foot bends when you're walking around. That's important, because that gives me a reference point about how much leverage you've got with that foot.
Right.
And when we set up the cleats for when you clip in, it gives us a reference point. So cycling shoes, right? When you're ready. A cycling shoe, kind of the main important thing with a cycling shoe is that you have a stiff sole. So
okay.
Like this full carbon shoe, very stiff. So when you're pushing on that pedal, you don't want to see any bending with the foot.
Right, because then you lose like energy transfer.
There's some actual like loss of energy.
Yeah.
But there's also like a sort of like a governor. You won't push as hard if you feel that foot bending, right?
Okay.
So if you try to pedal barefoot, you're only going to push so hard into that pedal. You know, come to a steep hill, what are you going to do? You're going to shift to an easier gear. You're going to slow down. This sort of prevents that.
Okay.
Right, when you have a stiff shoe. Now, even though you'll see like different levels, $50, $100, $150 shoes, those shoes, they're going to be stiffer than like a tennis shoe, but plastic, and they'll still be kind of bendy, right? Since you're going through this process, like I would try to get a little bit ahead of that and get a shoe like this where it's a full carbon. Like you should physically not be able to bend it with your hands.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
And if that's the case, fine, whatever. Then if it fits good, the upper, then from then on, the difference in price is really related to the upper. What it's made out of, like some had two boas, all that stuff. This is, for reference, this is like a $250 shoe. This is like their entry level to it, but you'll be able to find $75, $100 shoes, but they're plastic, right? And they bend.
Yeah.
And then you get to like 175 to 200, then it should be giving you a pretty stiff sole.
Got it. So that's like worth the investment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because like if you come back with the bike and you know, this fit includes you coming back with the new bike, and then we set everything up, and then you get a follow-up after that too. But if you come back with flexi shoes, I'm going to recommend you upgrade them.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
So it's like
Absolutely.
One of those things. Then think about when you pedal, where you put the cleat determines where your foot is over this pedal axle, right? So if we put the cleat way out here, and you start pedaling, obviously your heel wants to do more of that. You got to do more work to stabilize that foot with the calf and the Achilles. So like you got this repetitive movement, right? The reason I mark where those bones are, I want to know where that foot toes off, because that gives me a reference point about where is neutral for you with a shoe.
Right. Okay.
If we put the cleat under that, should not be an added stress during the pedal stroke. And then if anything, maybe a little bit behind that, so when you pedal, now you've got good stability when you push and things feel solid. But for sure, the main reason we do it, make sure you're not forward of that. So every time you pedal, there's like more of this drop, and then your calf and your Achilles contract. And
yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why we did that. So I'm going to set up the cleats. There's a couple different types of pedals that you would get. This is Shimano, one of the main brands. Probably the one I'd recommend. Shimano, Look, and Speed Play are the main ones.
Are you a cyclist yourself?
Cyclist, yeah, mostly. I've done some triathlons, but it was a while ago.
Which distances?
It was like a half and a full.
Okay, how'd that go?
It was good. So this was Lake Placid.
Ah.
There was one in Connecticut at the time. I don't know if they still do it.
I don't think so. All of them are like, down south now.
Yeah. So that was my foray, the business decision, doing more triathlon fits and stuff.
Got it. Okay.
I enjoy getting fit and running, but yeah, I've always been a cyclist. In a second here, I'm going to get some measurements on your body, and that'll help me determine like a good start point for where we put this bike.
Okay, awesome.
And then I'll get that set up. I'll get you up on the bike. We'll attach these harnesses to your body, so while that retool system is basically this set of LED lights that we put on your joints, and then as you pedal, you'll see where your body angles are.
Okay.
Real time as you're riding. And then I'll show you, we'll start off in a good neutral position, and then you'll see where you are relative to the typical rider.
Got it.
And then we'll kind of explore that range. Once we end with a final position, you'll end up getting a full report of all that stuff. What we did, why we did it, and any recommendations for the future.
Awesome.
What you're going to do here, push down on this, straddle the bar, and then balance that little bubble. Might be easier on the carpet. That just kind of rolls away from you.
Got it.
Okay, I'll take that. What's your history with sport?
Mostly track. That was my sport growing up, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was a 400-meter runner.
Step on that. You're just gonna heat that thing up for a few seconds here. Let's see what kind of arch you got. All right, come on off. No problems with your feet? They feel good?
Well, I used to have problems. That's why I have the arch supports in my shoe. I used to have really flat feet, so I started using arch supports. But they definitely been helping because I used to have like some problems when I used to run. Like the nerve in my left foot would compress, so I started to get a numbing feeling.
Okay.
I went to go see a podiatrist about 2 months back. I started barefoot running and I started wearing the arch supports. I haven't
2 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't experienced it in over a month now.
And is that, so that's the left foot?
Yeah. They said it was mostly because of my flat-footedness while it was happening. It never impacted my cycling. It was more so running and transferring power, especially when I was going like higher paces. But it hasn't happened so far, God willing, recently.
Yeah. And then your shoulder width, so arms right down your side. Yeah, you got pretty broad shoulders here.
Thank you.
All right, let me do this. What I'm going to do is get cleats on these, and that way you'll clip into the pedals.
Mm-hmm.
I got the crank length set up probably about what you would get with a bike. And then what I'm going to do is set this bike up, and I'll go over, once we get you up there and start riding, I'll go over some of the nuance of that. But basically, the goal of this session today is to put you in a good position, standard equipment, because we don't know what you're going to get yet. So I'm going to change that saddle. That's a pretty unique saddle. We want to put like a standard saddle on there. And then get the bike set up in a good neutral position. And then from there, we can just kind of start moving things around. We'll go through it step by step, but we're trying to narrow down each of these pieces of the puzzle. And then at the end, I'll get the measurements off that bike, and then that's what we'll use. I'll print out, I'll consult with you about like, here's the main points. This is what we're going to look for on, we look at a couple companies, whatever, maybe you looked at a couple companies out there, but Specialized or Trek or whatever. Here's what the bike sizes look like, how does that relate to this? What do we have to do? Because it's, we'll come up with our measurements. It's not going to be perfect. So you're trying to figure out, hey, maybe this bike fits a little bit better because of this, and what we find during the session here.
Okay, yeah.
But you'll end up getting that report, and I'll summarize all that again. So you'll have all the information to be able to do it. And then
Okay.
if you have questions, you email, but like you'll have like the stack and reach measurements, and I'll explain what that is in a minute.
What's like a typical like range for like a good bike?
Yeah, that 3,000 probably the entry level. Like you'll have a mechanical, like not electronic shifting component setup,
Right.
but it'll be mechanical. But you would still get like the same frame that a $5,000 or $6,000 bike would. It's just the components and the wheels. So I'll have in the notes like where I set up your cleats, and I'm going to set you up neutral basically.
Okay.
Basically right underneath that, those metatarsals. So I'll note that. So when you come back in, if you have a set of shoes or cleats, and then we can help you with that stuff if you need it. But
right.
We'll make sure it's set up the same.
Good. Okay. Awesome.
These cleats I'm putting on are 6 degrees of float. So what float is when you clip in, you've got 6 degrees of ankle motion before you unclip. Start the unclip process. If I put the blue cleats on here, it's 2 degrees.
Okay.
I also have a red, which is fixed. They come with yellow cleats, like if you did this pedal. If you came in with these cleats and you had some experience, I would be like, yeah, we should try the blues. You want to sort of tighten up that range of float.
Yeah.
Because your feedback of pedaling is a little bit better. Because we know you're going to get a good fit here. Like the one thing that a yellow cleat affords is like window of error, setting them up by yourself. Maybe you don't have a good position. You want to let the heel do more of what it wants.
Right.
But once you know your fit's good and you kind of got a good alignment and you've got some experience, lessening that amount of flow
Got
gives
it.
you better feedback with the pedal.
Okay.
Trying to pedal real hard, or it'd be like trying to sprint on ice skates, right? If you got this, I guess that's a good analogy, right? You don't want to sprint around roller skates, maybe.
Yeah.
You want that foot stable.
About efficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, get those on. I'm
Okay.
gonna get this bike set up in a good position here. Yeah, and then when you're ready, you're gonna hop up here. Probably easiest to straddle the bike first. Have you ever clipped in the Peloton you clip in on?
No, I don't clip on the Peloton.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So just straddle the bike, and then these pedals, basically, you, straddle the bike, get your hands up here, and then, just, you can get in the saddle too if you want.
Okay.
And then what you're gonna do, you just hook the front, and then step down with the back. They're pretty easy, but they are one-sided, so it's like you gotta flick it the other side. So
Okay.
look down. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, you got it. Now just step down with the heel. You'll get it quick.
There we go.
It's not too hard.
Okay.
These are actually pretty easy to to do, because the only bad thing is it's one-sided, so you kind of learn that little dexterity of flipping over the pedal.
Right. Okay.
Pedal for a little bit. Let me see what you look like here. It's gonna be a good start. All right, now you can stop pedaling. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get these little dots on. I'm going to spray a couple of spots with this pre-tape stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Just to help these dots stick. Are you looking at next year for triathlon events?
Yeah, I was looking.
Do you have friends doing it, or?
It's just me.
You can start pedaling again, so we'll get the right side here. Just gonna do stuff on the right side. So this you're basically watching yourself ride. This is like a rolling 3-second average of the data that's coming off those angles. This is just your right side. Each of these is an angle, and we'll go over what they are in a second here. And then here's the typical range you find in most cyclists. So of all retools data on cyclists, one standard deviation is within that range. So 65% of people are within this range.
Got it.
There's still 17% above and below, so it's not that you have to be exactly in this range, but it gives you a reference point about where the bell curve is, right? But when I look at somebody riding, I kind of want to see a flatter foot. Is sort of my bias, and the reason I like to see a flatter, what I'll consider neutral foot, not too toe pointed, but also not too heel low either, is that they're thinking about the right things. And what I want you thinking about when you pedal is like a squat or in the gym, I want you to try to engage. One thing we're trying to constantly do with people in fits is engage more posterior chain of muscles like the hamstrings and the glutes. So when you pedal, the more you push through the toes, the more you turn it into like a quad exercise because of the instability at the ankle joint. And you know, if you're having to do this push and now the ankles are unstable, you can't really access your glutes as much because the angles are a little different. That's not a good thing for like maximal. Just like running, like a lot of good runners learn to run from the hip,
Right.
Stride length, and then get the hip active. Same thing on a bike.
Okay.
So when you plant your foot and you push more through the midfoot or the heel, keep the toes kind of relaxed and wiggling and loose in the shoe, that type of posture engages more the glute.
Okay.
And driving through that midfoot. Just like if you're doing a squat, you know, no squat strength coach is ever going to tell you to like push through your toes.
Right.
You know, when you're doing it, they're always going to be like midfoot, heel, you know, push the earth away from you type of thing. That's what you want to do to help engage activating those muscles. So that's what I want you to think about when you ride.
Okay.
If a seat is way too low, somebody's going to drive their heel lower, you know, because they're seeking more knee extension, straight leg. So part of the problem is going to be a little bit that. But once we get you all set up, that's still something that you want to think about.
Driving through your hips.
Yeah. So seat height really has to do with like, hey, how straight is this angle right here?
Right. Okay.
At the bottom of the pedal stroke, this is typically where you're going to have the most extension, where the foot is farthest away from the hip. So we're looking kind of right there. You don't want it too straight. You don't want it too bent. If we look at you got your 133, you know, 138 to 148 is where people typically are. So you're definitely on the lower side where that knee is kind of a little bit constrained, a little bit tight. So what I'm going to be seeking to do is raise the seat height and get you up into that 140, probably about that 144 range. Do you ever cramp when you ride or run?
No.
So now, watching that column 3, we got the initial in the left-hand column. I'm going to have you stop pedaling, and I just want you to stand up and kind of hover over the saddle.
Okay.
So
And I twist out, right?
stay in the pedals, but just
Okay.
kind of stand up, yep. And then I'm going to raise this seat a little bit at a time. See where that angle goes. So now, sort of in the range.
Right.
Now we're starting to get into the top of that bell curve,
Okay.
inside that bell curve. What's that feel like?
I feel like I'm pointing my toes a little bit.
Yeah, we're starting to see it a little bit. 96, now you're at 90. You know, you were at 99 there. And now you'll have a little bit of leeway. It's like, all right, even though if I keep this same seat height, I still want you to focus on keeping that heel down. But I'm also trying to promote the right mechanics for you initially too, right? Where I want you to be able to drop the heel. Maybe more than, like, I wouldn't want to, I want to promote it. So if that seat's a little bit too high, it's not going to promote you feeling good dropping your heel.
Right.
So at the same time, sometimes it's a little bit of a. All right, so maybe that's like, you know, kind of. I'm going to raise it a little bit more because I'm not too worried here. And if I watch you pedal, like, I'm not too worried that's way too high, but I can start to see that little hitch with the foot. So let me do this. The one thing we're also watching with saddle is the fore aft. So we just focused on height. The next step, and they kind of play off each other, knee forward of foot or knee forward of spindle has to do with the saddle forward and back. So if I move the saddle forward, your hips are coming forward, your knee is coming forward, but your foot's staying in the same position. So you basically change where that knee is over the foot.
Okay.
Right here, you're on the more aft side of things, and if I got somebody healthy and active and capable, I'm going to keep them on the more back side as much as possible, because that also helps engage the glutes and the low back. Some people just aren't capable with the people that come in of like the posture that they hold, having them further forward is required because the reach is too long or the spine bends the wrong way. You know, you do a good job keeping it long and straight. We're going to go over that in a second. But so you're kind of right on the outside. So I don't think it's too far back, but maybe we start on a little bit slightly forward, and that's going to afford this, maybe feels a little easier to stay on top at that seat height. Right?
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this forward a centimeter. Saddle, probably the most important part of the fit is like having somebody comfortable sitting hard on the seat, and then that then allows you to pay attention to good posture, or how you hold, or what type of pedaling you're doing. If somebody's uncomfortable with a saddle, they spend most of their ride holding comfort, right, in one way or the other. Whether they're pushing back with the arms, whether they're putting too much weight through the toes and kind of moving themselves on the saddle. So whatever you end up getting with the saddle, spending some time on it, it is important, and the way I explain it is like you should feel comfortable sitting and bearing all your weight, and then hold it. It shouldn't prevent you from holding good posture and attending to those things like pedaling and posture.
Yeah.
And we don't know yet, and you're just starting, but and cycling shorts make it better with the pad, the chamois. It's in the pedaling shorts, or the cycling shorts. So keep that in mind. We'll rehash that when you come back.
Okay.
With the new bike too. But
Got
that's
it.
a very important position.
Okay.
So all this is very stable. That's your motor, the drivetrain right there. Now we get to like, hey, now we want to match the bar position to, all right, you got this certain amount of flexibility, good length spine, certain length arm, culminates with the grips right here. We want to make sure that's in a good neutral range so that you can attend to, you can self-adjust a little bit. If it's too far out, then you're just kind of forced
Got it.
a little bit too far and always strained that
Right.
way.
Okay.
But this is the most important part of this fit, because when we size frames, it's based around the head tube that this thing has, because then we know we have a certain amount of spacer here, how high or how low it can get. Second technique thing, we went over the pedaling, and you got a good handle on that. Now, technique is, right, if I see somebody come in on the bike, most people, they probably slouch, right, just like at a desk, at a computer, most people just sit relaxed and rely on skeletal structure and stuff to hold them. I want you, when you ride, try to make habit, hey, I'm engaged, I'm sitting tall. You don't have to force it as far as you can, but you just have to be engaged. And then once you're in that condition, tightening up the ab muscles, all that stuff, I want you to try to hinge at the hip as much as possible and not just do it by bending, because that then turns off what you just tried to engage. So long spine, sit tall, and then hinge at the hip, and then the arms just kind of take up the rest. Okay. How does this feel with the hands? More weight?
More weight.
Okay, so let's go back up. All right, so now I want to look at reach, sit up, so that's a centimeter longer. See how that feels? All right, stop pedaling. So I'm going to get this off, and then I'm going to get the measurements on this bike. So give us the measurements, and then I'll print this out, and we'll go over. We'll take a look at some bikes.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
So we don't shop for you, but like I said, you're going to get all the information to be able to make that determination.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you right now, like how to think about, hey, what bike fits, what doesn't. Some people run with it and like want to pay attention to it. Some people are just like, just tell me what to get. And either case, like you have to do the shopping. We don't.
Got it.
We'll point you in the right direction for sure, but.
With like used bikes, do you know if like they regularly let you like test ride them?
No, they don't. I mean, if you find a used bike around here, like you go to somebody's house and you test ride it at
Yeah.
a marketplace, or that would be the one avenue. But most bike shops don't let you do test rides even.
All right, I just left the shop. So we just kept talking about like which bike would be a good fit for me, and just gave me a couple bikes, but specifically what I'm looking for. So with this bike fit specifically, he more so gave me a really in-depth rundown of what I should look for my size and for everything, and to just match that to a bike, and more so matching myself to a bike rather than trying to match a bike to me, because he wants to make sure everything's really efficient as possible, which is why like it was really in depth, and I actually thought it was really cool to actually do in the first place. So it was actually a really awesome experience. And another big thank you to Chad for helping me. I will link the location and the shop down below where I did all of this. It is in Montrose, New York. Very helpful guy. He's awesome. You guys should go check him out. But I'll link all of that down below in the description. Thank you guys for watching. God bless. Have a great day. I will keep you guys updated on which bike I get and when I come visit here again in the future for my next bike fit, and to make sure everything's good with the bike I decide to get. But without further ado, don't follow me, follow God. God bless everyone. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much.